This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the RAISE MRCOG Part 1 topic for the webinar today, that is the pelvic bones and the fetal skull. So I am Dr. Rashmi Patil. I'll be taking this short topic for you all as a part of an orientation and a free webinar. So as you can see that the pelvis, it consists about the various bones like the hip bones, the sacrum and the coccyx. There are sacroiliac joints. You can see the iliac crest and the pubis also. Now the pelvis consists of two innominate bones, which consist again about the ilium, ischium and the pubis. There is a sacrum and there is a coccyx. Coming to the anatomy of the pelvis, you can see that there is an obturator foramen over here and the pubis, between the pubis and the ischium. So this has been asked in the exam before. There's an acetabulum, which is a fusion of all three innominate bones. So here you can see this part is the sacrum. This is the sacroiliac joint, upper part of the iliac bone. This is the coccyx over here. And this forms the obturator foramina. You can see there's a symphysis pubis, the ischial tuberosity. There's a pubic tubercle here, and this is the ischial part. Coming to the sacrum, it is 5 fused vertebrae which are joined together and thus they form the sacrum. It is triangular in shape and it has a sacral promontory. Now, it is important to know that the dural sheath terminates at the level of S2, and beyond this, there is a fatty tissue, the chorda equina, and the filum terminale. The coccyx, it is made up of either 3 to 5 fused vertebrae, and you can see it is made up of 2 joints. So this is important. Anteriorly, it is the symphysis pubis, which is a cartilaginous joint. Posterolaterally, there are 2 sacroiliac joints, which are the synovial joints. So this is important. And posteriorly, you have the sacrococcygeal joint, which is cartilaginous. How about the pelvic brim? So it consists of the sacral promontory, the ala of the sacrum, the arcuate line, the iliopectineal line, and the symphysis pubis. Here you can see that the linea terminalis is made up of the pubic crest, the pecten pubis, and the arcuate line. And you can see this entire colorful thing is the pelvic brim. Another important question is about the greater sciatic foramen. Here you can see this is the greater sciatic foramen and this is the lesser sciatic foramen. This is the sacrospinous ligament and this is the sacrotuberous ligament because it is getting attached to the ischial tuberosity. This is the sacrum towards the tuberosity. So sacrotuberous ligament. This is from the sacrum to the spinous process. So it is a sacrospinous ligament. Now the boundaries of the greater sciatic foramen are superiorly it is the sacroiliac ligament, inferiorly it is the sacrospinous ligament which I showed before. Anterolaterally there's a greater sciatic notch and posteromedially is the sacrotuberous ligament. The boundaries of the lesser sciatic foramen are anteriorly it is the ischial tuberosity, posteriorly it is the sacrotuberous ligament again, superiorly there is a sacrospinous ligament, and laterally there is a lesser sciatic notch. So here you can see again in this figure, this is the obturator canal over here. This is the greater sciatic foramen and this is the lesser sciatic foramen. So from the sacrum, the ligament goes towards the spinous. This is the sacrospinous ligament. And from the sacrum, it goes towards the tuberosity. This is called as the sacrotuberous ligament. Coming to the types of pelvis, we all know that it consists about 4 types. This is the gynecoid, the platypeloid, android, and anthropoid. So you know that the android is a heart-shaped inlet, whereas the platypeloid is the oval shape. And gynecoid is most commonly observed in the females. What are the differences between the male and the female pelvis? We have been learning all this, so let us revise again. Acetabulum, it is larger in the males, whereas small in the females. The obturator foramina is oval in the females. Ischial tuberosity is everted so as to make more space for the baby to come. The pelvic inlet is heart-shaped in males, whereas oval in females. The canal is longer in males, whereas it is shorter in the female pelvis. The pelvic outlet should be large. It should have a wide inferior pubic rami, about 90 degrees and more. The ischial tuberosity angle, it should admit at least 4 knuckles. The sacrum should be short and wide. Here you can see that this is the pelvic inlet. In between are shown, and then this is the pelvic outlet which is formed. So here you can see above this brim, it is the false pelvis. Below the pelvic brim becomes the true pelvis. And here they have shown that this is the pelvic outlet. How about all the diameters now? So you can see from the midpoint of the sacrum, the tip, it goes towards the pubic symphysis. Again, the upper part is called as the anatomical conjugate. The highest prominent point on the posterior surface of the pubic symphysis is called the obstetric conjugate. And the diagonal conjugate is what we measure during the pelvic examination. The left oblique comes from the left sacroiliac joint, whereas the right oblique goes to the right sacroiliac joint. And this is the anterior-posterior, and these are the transverse diameters of the pelvis. Coming to this, so we all know that in the inlet, the anterior-posterior is 11 centimeters, the diagonal is 12, and the transverse is 13. So it is 11, 12, and 13 centimeters, easy to remember. The plane of the pelvis is around 60 degrees to the horizontal. And at the outlet, you can see that it reverses. Anterior posterior is 13, the oblique is again 12, and the transverse becomes 11. So it is the reverse of your inlet, that is 13, 12, and 11. The interspinous diameter, this is the narrowest part of the pelvic outlet. Coming to the fetal skull, yes, we all know that the fetal skull consists of various small parts of the bones. These are the parietal bones, and these are the frontal bones. This is the occipital bone. So between the occipital and the parietal bones, this is called as the lambdoid suture. The middle, where both the parietal bones join, is called as the sagittal suture. And between the frontal bone and the parietal bone, this is called as the coronal suture. And in between the two frontal bones, this is called as the frontal suture. We all know that from the highest prominent points on the parietal bones is called as the biparietal diameter. This is 9.5 centimeters. How about the lateral view? Yes, this is the mentum. So from the mentum to the highest point of the vertex, we call it as the submentovertical, the mentovertical diameter. This becomes almost up to 13.5 centimeters. A point below that is called submentum. From there, if you go to the bregma, this is called as submentobregmatic. This is 9.5 centimeters. And most common again is the suboccipitobregmatic. This becomes the 9.5 centimeters again. And this is the occipitofrontal diameter, which is 11 centimeters. So we have three 9.5s over here. The biparietal diameter is 9.5. The submentobregmatic becomes 9.5. The suboccipitobregmatic becomes 9.5 centimeters. Yes, vertex is the highest point of the fetal skull. The vertex is bounded by the anterior and the posterior fontanelles and the parietal eminences. Here you can see that the biparietal diameter is shown between the two parietal eminences. This is 9.5 centimeters. And there is a bitemporal diameter, which is the greatest distance between the two halves of the coronal sutures. So this is 8.5 centimeters. Now again, it is shown that the vertex is the area which is bounded anteriorly by the and posterior fontanelles and the parietal eminences. We should also know about the circumferences. So when it comes as a suboccipitobrygmatic and the parietal, it becomes a 28 centimeter circumference. So these are the engaging diameters for a well-flexed vertex presentation. This is the shortest circumference over here. The suboccipitofrontal, a little deflexed head, we see that it is 33 centimeters in the circumference. The highest one is the mentovertical or into the biparietal, that is 35.5 centimeters. This is the largest circumference of the head and is found in the Brough presentation. Coming to the fontanelles, anteriorly there is a bregma. It is a diamond shaped. It closes at 18 months. Posteriorly, it closes at close to 2 months of life. Here again, you can see that you have the submentobrygmatic, which is in the face presentation. You have the mentovertical, which is in the brow presentation. You have the suboccipitobrygmatic, which is again commonly seen in the flexed vertex presentation. In a slightly deflexed, you're going to get a partially deflexed, you're going to get a suboccipitofrontal, that is 10 centimeters. And in a deflexed vertex, you're going to get the occipito and the frontal. This is 11.5 centimeters. Coming to few single best answers. So the arcuate line, it forms the part of the border of the pelvic brim. So where is it located? You can message in the chat box. Yes, that's correct. It's ilium. Looking at the diagram of the fetal skull below, what is represented by the part labeled as A? Yes, it's the occipital bone. You can see that these are the sutures, correct? So this is the occipital bone. So these are the SPAs which are frequently asked. So we have another set of SPAs which will be put up again in the course Telegram groups and all. So this was a short introduction about the pelvic bones and the fetal skull and few questions regarding the SPAs which are being asked in the exam. So thank you all for attending this brief session, and I wish to conduct few more free webinars for all of you. Thank you so much.